So I'm 26 years old, and I started a lot of these habits that we've talked about when I was 18, and I'm taking advantage of them now. I'm not 60 years old, I'm 26. And
Yeah.
so I think there's a misconception that you're not going to see the benefits of those efforts until much later on in life, and that's not always true. I just want to stress it's not mutually exclusive. Having fun and planning for the future, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both. I think you've done it. I've seen your Instagram. And
Yes, sir. What's up, my FY Fly folks out there? How y'all doing? I hope y'all doing all right. Welcome to the FY Fly podcast. My name is Hassan Thomas, aka the kid that did and the man that can, baby. And today, we're gonna be chopping up with podcaster, financial educator, and the guy who saved 100K by the age 23, Mr. Obi Okereke. How are you, bro? How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, brother. Of course, man. We've been following each other for a little minute, man. I love
Yes,
what you're
indeed.
doing. So I'm super happy to have you on FY Fly. Because what we like to do, brother, we like to skip the fluff and get right into the good stuff. How that sound?
I like it.
All right, bet. So the first thing I want to know, man, where did your money sense come from? Was it parents? Was it through experiences? Like, what first prompted you to become knowledgeable about money? And then also, like, how did you even do it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a little bit of everything. In middle school, I received an allowance, a $20 a month allowance, which, I mean, for a middle schooler, I think is a lot of money. And at my
For
middle
sure.
school, we had a student store where you could buy like fruit snacks and chips and Gatorade and things like that. And so that was my first introduction to money, because I found that, all right, if I don't use my entire allowance every month, like I'll have even more to buy more fruit snacks and more chips and things like that. And then soon
Yeah.
enough, I started paying my siblings to do my chores for me, because
Okay.
they didn't
Delegating the
save.
task. All right.
Exactly. They weren't saving their allowance as much as I was. And so I was like, if I save my money, I can do all these various things. Not long after that in high school, my dad started talking a lot about generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up making my first investment in the stock market as a senior in high school. And then from
Okay.
there was just a lot of self-education with just researching different things online. I used Google like every single day. Whenever I had a question, I would just hit Google. And
Yeah.
then after that, in college, I started to receive like questions from friends and family on getting started with investing and then getting better with budgeting and various things like that. And that
Mm-hmm.
ultimately led me to start my own platform, College Money Habits, which
Okay.
now encompasses, I guess, a couple different things that I'm doing, and most recently my podcast as well. But a lot of self-education, and as you mentioned, experience. I made some mistakes. I made many
Uh-huh.
mistakes. So I've learned from those, and I'm continuing to learn as well.
All right, we're gonna get into that for sure, especially how you started your business and everything. But I want to get some practical game for people who may have not had parents that were able to teach them or give them those lessons and experiences. For let's say fresh out of high school, fresh out of college, wanting to get their financial start. What does it look like? Like the basics. What does it look like?
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it all starts with habits, because I think that you can have all the knowledge in the world and all the money in the world, but if you don't have healthy habits, things aren't going to work out. And that you can apply that to money, you can apply that to health, you can apply that to
Mm-hmm.
literally anything. But with money specifically, I would say the earlier that you can master paying yourself first and making sure that for every dollar that you earn, you're putting a certain percentage or a certain amount into your savings, or you're putting a certain amount into investments. Starting that practice early is helpful, because if you can master that and delaying gratification, so you're not buying everything that you want when you
Yeah.
want to, if you can master that early, like when you're in high school or when you're in college, and let's say you're earning $1,000 a month, or you're earning $1,000 a year, or whatever it may be, when you go from doing that to graduating college and maybe now you're earning $100,000 a year, it
Mm-hmm.
makes it so much easier to continue practicing those habits, because at that point you've been doing it for years. And so
Mm-hmm.
you've already made the mistakes. And so now you're a budgeting master, or you're an investing master at this point. And so things are
Yeah.
going to be easier. And you essentially have worked on creating a strong foundation so that it's there. And it accelerates the process. And that's, I think, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can
Mm-hmm.
give is just start early, whether it's with budgeting or it's investing, which I'm sure you know, and
For
just making
sure.
sure that you build those healthy habits, those healthy money habits as early as possible.
I want to get your actual thought process of, do you budget with like buckets? Do you break your saving and investing and the things that you're saving for? Do you break it into buckets? How do you personally allocate your money whenever you get paid from, your business and things? Like, how do you allocate your money?
I'll just use numbers because it's a bit easier. $3,000 every month is taken from my master checking account and put into my high yield savings account, which is Ally Bank. And then an additional
Okay.
thousand roughly is sent to various investments. And that's the money that I that's of the money that I see that hits my checking account. Before that has even
Hmm.
happened, 12% of my income is going to my 401k. Small percentage is going to my HSA, my health savings account. And
Yeah.
then what's left over from that is then 80% of that's going into that managerial checking account, which is what contributes to the saving and the investments. And then
Hmm.
20% goes to my spending account, which in all actuality, I think is closer to about 16% of my income once you include the deductions. And so, because all of that's done at the forefront, I don't have like a budget for gas or like business expenses or food or other things just because I don't feel like I really need it. I don't feel like it's necessary for me at this point. That
Hmm.
said, I don't think everybody should adopt that strategy right away because I did start off budgeting, and I think what works is going to be different for everybody, but I think through automation it makes things infinitely easier.
Hmm. Yeah, to me it sounds like, we're pretty much on the same wave as far as we kind of have like a lifestyle budget. So we fully believe in the automation process. So everything that we know we need to be contributing to, we're already doing. And pretty much whatever is left over can be spent, I wouldn't say freely, but it can be spent without tracking every single expense, because we already have our saving, we already have our investing, we have our bills probably automated, those different type of things. So everything's already taken care of. Whereas on the opposite end, for some people, they're getting paid on that Friday. Then they going to get the haircut. They spending this, they spending that, they spending that, and by Sunday, the check is gone. So I think that's the big benefit, correct me if I'm wrong, of paying yourself
Right.
first. Soon as you get paid, handle that business, and then kind of whatever is left over, now we can, have fun with it and do whatever. From the people that you've helped, the college students and the young folks that you've helped, is it that they don't know how to budget, or they don't know how to stick to a budget? What do you think is the biggest piece for people not budgeting?
I think it all starts with, and we just talked about this, figuring out what is your income, or if you're receiving benefits, what's the total amount of your benefits, and then what are your need based expenses again, and then figuring out if there is something left over. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
harsh reality if there isn't, or if it's a negative number, because that means that you're now forced to have to eliminate an expense or reduce an expense, or you have to increase your income. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just the facts. Now, I think from there, for people who do have money left over, I think what I experienced, at least in college, is kind of just that
Mm-hmm.
mentality of living in the moment. I think it's very easy to say, like, I'm in college, I should have fun right now, or I'm young, I should have fun right now, I should travel, I should buy the things that I want, I should do whatever it is, because like it's not going to be as fun when I'm old, or if I save and I invest right now, I'm not going to be able to take advantage of those things until I'm like 60 or 50 years old. Why not just live right now?
Yeah.
And I've I've had debates with my siblings about that, because that's something that at least my brother and I have gone back and forth on, where
Oh,
in the end.
it's definitely a thought process for a lot of young folks, and even for myself, I've thought about that. Like,
Mhm.
man, if I can't walk, you know what I mean? I gotta, I'm on a not a stroller, a walker. I'm about to say a stroller.
Yeah.
If I'm on a walker and I'm trying to go to Thailand or something, like it's not gonna be the same as me and my girl going now. So I
Yeah.
definitely do feel both sides. But go ahead, bro.
I think what I would say to that is, so I'm 26 years old, and I started a lot of these habits that we've talked about when I was 18, and I'm taking advantage of them now. I'm not 60 years old, I'm 26. And
Yeah.
so I think there's a misconception that you're not going to see the benefits of those efforts until much later on in life, and that's not always true. Now, this I'm just using myself as an example. I think
Yeah.
everybody's reality is different. It could be you could see it when you're 21, or you could see it when you're 30. It's going to be different for everybody, but if you don't start, it's going to be even later, or you might have to work during retirement. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is very scary when you don't make these decisions early on. And I think everybody probably knows somebody who has faced difficulty later on in life as a result of potentially some missteps or miscalculations when it comes to finances. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing that, no matter how small the step is, because that's relative, doing something is always better than doing nothing. If you can save $1 a month, do that. If you can save $10 or
Yeah.
invest $10, because again, you're gonna if you can if you find that every month you've got $200 left over, and you make a decision, I'm gonna automate 50 of that to savings. A year from then, when you've made that decision, you're gonna look back and say, "Wow, I'm so thankful that I did that, because now I've got an emergency fund, or I have the beginnings of an emergency fund set aside, and so I now know if
Mm-hmm.
my tire pops tomorrow on the freeway, I've got enough money to replace it right away." And I
Facts.
think that doing all those things just gives you more peace of mind to tackle life early
Mm-hmm.
and also later on. But again, I just want to stress, it's not mutually exclusive. Having fun and planning for the future, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both. I think you've done it. I've seen your Instagram, and
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to do it as well.
Definitely, most definitely. But I think it all starts from, like you mentioned, having that start in place, automating, putting those positive habits in place, and we're lucky to be in a situation and to be born in this era where we don't have to go to New York to talk to a stockbroker and pay them to buy some stocks for us. We can literally do it from our phones, from our computers, just having Wi-Fi. So I think we definitely have to acknowledge that and take advantage of it because, bro, you literally saved a K by the age 23. So we need the secret sauce. We need the game behind that. How in the world did you do that, bro?
Yeah, and so fun fact, I actually just hit a new goal. So I just hit 300K. I think it was a couple days ago. And so
Claps and snaps, my brother.
thank you. And as far as the 100K at 23, it was primarily those 2 years after college that were the difference maker, because I started working in consulting after graduating from college, and I was earning a very decent wage, and I was able to save most of that and invest most of that. And now the second part of that was the habits of delayed gratification, because I've always wanted to buy a Rolex watch. It's a
Hmm.
story that I tell during workshops of mine. And I remember after I started working in consulting, I went to Ben Bridge, jeweler in Seattle, and I they had the watch that I wanted. And
Yeah.
at that time, after tax, it was going to cost me, I think it was close to $9,000. And I ended up asking myself, does this make sense? Like, does this purchase make any sense? And the
Hmm.
easy and obvious answer was no, absolutely not, because I was living at home with parents. I had at that time about $30,000 in debt between student loans and between my car. And then I had
Yeah.
about $30,000 between cash and investments. So if I bought the watch, my parents kicked me out of the house the next day. What am I going to do? And so
Hmm.
I didn't get the watch. That was, I think, November of 2019. A couple months later,
Okay.
COVID-19, and I lost a significant amount within my investment portfolio. And that was, so 2019 was year one of living with my parents. And
Mm.
around that time, I had mapped out a plan to saving my first 100K. And in order to do that, I saw that I basically can't spend any money. And so I have to live off the earth and live off what's in the kitchen at home for the most
Yeah.
part, not go anywhere. And I was at peace with that because to me 100K represented financial independence. It was a
Mm.
number that I realized if I hit it, I think I'm good for the rest of my life as long as I continue to practice healthy habits. And so
Okay.
that decision not to buy that watch was part of that. And then in 2020, as COVID-19 was happening, I invested I think it was close to 40% of my income that year into the stock
Mm.
market, into a lot of tech stocks,
And everything was
coincidentally.
down, so that was probably a great idea.
And so that was an amazing year.
Mm.
Needless to say, I
Yeah.
ended up paying off my car loan that year as well as a result of being able to save and the profit I made through investments. And I could have paid off my student loans as well,
Mm.
but didn't need to because they got paused. So
Yeah.
I decided to just continue investing, and it was that year 2020 that I hit 100K, and it was a
Okay.
result of not going out to eat all the times that I wanted to, not really traveling at all. I don't think I traveled at all that year, and just kind of hunkering down with my parents and sticking to the plan that I created. And so
So, bro,
that's
you had that why, and that's what I think everybody needs to. Your specific, and it doesn't have to be a huge overarching, doesn't have to be a huge overarching, goal. You literally wanted to save your first 100K because you thought and you believed if I hit this number, I'm set for life. That was your specific why. And I want everybody listening to find their, whether it's something for themselves, whether it's something for their parents, your child. Find your specific why of why you want to do good, why you want to be financially responsible, and use that why to kind of catapult you. Because I'm sure it was some times where you wanted to eat out, some times where you wanted to
oh
travel,
yeah.
but that why that you had kind of kept you on track. So I think if everybody can find their why and try to seek that why, and if it's that important to you, you're most likely going to be able to stay on track. So, bro, I want to get from you when it came to you saving and investing. You mentioned Ally. As far as saving and investing, what other apps do you use? Are you still a manual type person, or are you fully automated, fully on the technology wave? What does that look like?
I have a lot of accounts. I think sometimes it's
Uh-huh.
too much accounts. And I was specifically to so saving, that's automated. Investing is a little bit of both. So I manage a considerable amount of my investments. I have accounts with Wells Fargo, Robinhood, Fidelity, Fundrise for real estate investing, and
Same. Shout out to Funrise.
Fundrise is awesome. Awesome platform.
Yeah.
And through my investments, primarily the ones that are in Robinhood, those are actively managed.
Okay.
I'm buying and selling a bit more frequently in there, but I've toned that down where I have in my portfolio, it's a mix of individual stocks and then ETFs, so exchange traded funds, and then mutual funds and index funds. And then a
Hmm.
little bit of Bitcoin mixed in there
Okay.
as well.
Living life on the
But
edge, baby.
yeah, but yeah, no, I am with the exception of my 401k, I kind of like manage a majority of my investments. If that answers your question.
For sure, most definitely, bro. Your goals, I feel like the money is definitely a calling point, but really, we want to hit our goals so we can then like the money is honestly like a byproduct of us hitting our goals, and then that's where that
Hmm.
kind of that happiness comes in, and that goes into the next question I want to ask you, brother. Can't have you on FY Fly and not ask you our famous final question. I'm gonna say two quotes, and I need you to let me know which one is more accurate in your opinion. All right.
Okay. Oh,
All right. So the first one is more money, more problems. Shout out to Biggie Smalls. And the second one is money can't buy happiness. Which quote do you agree with most?
money can't buy happiness.
Sheesh. Okay. Why is that?
Well, I think like so when I think of that, I believe like people equate it to having more money is going to make you a happier individual. And while
Mm-hmm.
I think that having more money is going to solve a lot of problems for particular individuals and likely improve their mood on a day-to-day basis, it isn't the end all be all. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I can definitively say I am happier today with my current net worth versus my net worth when it was 3 times less. I think what I can say has made me happier is the relationships that I have with other people, being able to work with individuals such as yourself and reach a larger audience, and
Mm-hmm.
the impact that I have on other people who are trying to learn about financial literacy. And
Mm-hmm.
one thing that I don't think that can be argued is is that money in and of itself can provide you with items or experiences that will unequivocally make you happy or
Mm-hmm.
bring joy to you and others. But
Yeah.
I don't think that having more makes you happier. I do think that there's research done on it, and I think up to a certain point, it actually does make you happier. I think I don't know what it was. I feel like what comes to mind is $80,000, or at least making that or having that, and then beyond there
Yeah.
isn't a significant bump in
That
your
threshold. Yeah.
yeah.
I've
But
I've heard of that study as well.
I will say that around the time that I had $80,000 was when I first was like, I feel good. I feel like I can take my foot off the gas for a sec, and
Mm-hmm.
then, but no, I don't. Yeah, I think it's it's kind of complicated as a question because I feel like it can buy things that'll make you happy, whether it's a material item or a vacation, or if you like to go out to restaurants like I do. It buys you
Mm-hmm.
the food at, at those restaurants, which probably brings you joy for that moment.
Yeah.
But on like a year to year basis, I don't think like when you're extremely sad, you're like, oh, thank God I've got $1 million in the bank. Maybe you do that, but yeah, hopefully that answers answers that
No,
partially.
it definitely did, bro, because you got to think about it, you know, like you said, money brings you that opportunity to be happy, but just necessarily more money. And literally the way that you broke it down in the beginning, I wasn't necessarily, or you said you weren't necessarily happier today than you are 3 years ago when your net worth was, like you said, 3 times less. Maybe the opportunities, but dang, it is hard because without the money, you would have had an opportunity. So like, I don't know, bro. That is low key tough. Obi, bro, thank you so much for joining the FY Fly podcast, man. If you have any final words, any final takeaways, go ahead and also let them know where to reach you.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. And I think my piece of advice would be to set goals, set realistic goals. And one question that I ask myself every single day is, what did you do today to put you in a different place than you were yesterday? So if you're
Mm-hmm.
trying to lose weight, did you work out today? Did you eat fruit? Are you eating healthy? If you're trying to save more money, did you set up a plan to save more money? Did you automate your savings? If you want to invest, did you do any research into different investment accounts or into different things that you could invest in? It's just making sure that every day you're taking one step towards securing a better future for yourself, no matter how large or how small that step might be. Progress is progress.
Sir.
And that is, I think, the final note that that I would leave. I do want to thank you again for having me. This was a very fun and enjoyable experience, and I got to get you on my podcast now so we can have. And as far as where people can reach me on Instagram, College Money Habits, or Is It in the Budget, and on TikTok at College Money Habits are the best ways to reach out to me. If you're looking for some fun content, or if you want to book me for a workshop or anything like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you again. And like you just mentioned, with as far as the progression piece, we're real big on taking some of those small incremental habits and watching them turn into large results over time. So that can be with your education, that can be with your finances, with your fitness, with your
Mm-hmm.
love life, anything. Take those small incremental habits, and I promise you, over time, they will turn into large results. So again, Thank you, Obi. And for our listeners, y'all already know we need y'all to stay safe, stay invested, and stay FYI fly. We'll see y'all next week.
So I'm 26 years old, and I started a lot of these habits that we've talked about when I was 18, and I'm taking advantage of them now. I'm not 60 years old, I'm 26. And
Yeah.
so I think there's a misconception that you're not going to see the benefits of those efforts until much later on in life, and that's not always true. Now, this I'm just using myself as an example. I think
Yeah.
everybody's reality is different. It could be you could see it when you're 21, or you could see it when you're 30. It's going to be different for everybody, but if you don't start, it's going to be even later, or you might have to work during retirement. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality is very scary when you don't make these decisions early on. And I think everybody probably knows somebody who has faced difficulty later on in life as a result of potentially some missteps or miscalculations when it comes to finances. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing that, no matter how small the step is, because that's relative, doing something is always better than doing nothing. If you can save $1 a month, do that. If you can save $10 or
Yeah.
invest $10, because again, you're gonna if you can if you find that every month you've got $200 left over, and you make a decision, I'm gonna automate 50 of that to savings. A year from then, when you've made that decision, you're gonna look back and say, "Wow, I'm so thankful that I did that, because now I've got an emergency fund, or I have the beginnings of an emergency fund set aside." And so I now know if
Mm-hmm.
my tire pops tomorrow on the freeway, I've got enough money to replace it right away. And I
Facts.
think that doing all those things just gives you more peace of mind to tackle life early
Mm-hmm.
and also later on. But again, I just want to stress, it's not mutually exclusive. Having fun and planning for the future, they're not mutually exclusive. You can do both. I think you've done it. I've seen your Instagram. And
Yes, sir.